r/AskReddit. What's the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? My parents deciding to get a divorce. Did they? Yep. My anti-drug parents drunk as shit and on a coke binge. Got up to piss at like 6 a.m. when the noise finally stopped and there had to be $200 worth of cocaine on my kitchen table. We lived in a small, one-story house. There's no way anyone could have slept through their bullshit. And my mom still cries when I talk about weed. This level of hypocrisy would permanently damage my opinion of my parents if they were like this. Christ. I was 12 and my dad telling his so-called friend, who was at the time living with us, should we tell him that we are married? So, that's your mom? What ended up coming of this? So this was my father's second wife, and they really were married. I confronted my dad the next day, and he had hid the fact from me for a month. I was super disturbed about what was happening around me. It did not work out between them and they ended up getting a divorce. So yay. That it was a mistake to adopt me. I didn't know I was adopted. There is overheard my parents having sex on this thread, and then there is this. I heard my dad ranting about how he wished that he never had kids early one morning. I don't have kids, but most parents probably have moments like this. Don't take it personally. I guarantee that most parents have had this rant at one point or another. I was sharing a hotel room with my brother and his fiancée. They were having a loud whisper discussion about whether or not they should have sex while I'm in the room. Mind you, a fair debate to have, definitely something for a healthy couple to have if they're to figure their lives out. She says yeah, but he'll probably start masturbating if he hears us. Well, now you're just hurting my feelings. Where's the trust? Also, my mom's best friend and her daughter claiming I was stealing all the food and the special instant coffee. I was boarding there for school. It doesn't sound too bad except that living there was hell. Their son was a creep, the father wasn't much better. Both thought they were hot shit and knew everything. If I wanted to wash I had to share the bath water after everyone else had used it. My money, clothes, toiletries were routinely stolen. I didn't steal the food. There wasn't anything edible my friends used to feed me. When they did serve food it was raw chicken. Either that or they'd go on vacation, without telling me, and leave me in the house with nothing. I never told my mom what was going on until they tried to pin it on me. I was out of there within the hour and living with my aunt an hour away for the rest of my schooling. Kind of digitally overheard? My mom asked me to text someone back for her on her phone while she was driving. At that time a sexy text from my dad came in about how they were gonna have alone time this weekend and she had earlier sent a winky face. Keep in mind that my parents have never touched, hugged, or kisses in front of me except little pecks on their anniversary. They sleep in separate rooms and never do anything together because their work schedules are opposite. Before that moment I've often wondered whether they should just get divorced because they don't seem to love each other. It was kinda gross seeing my parents send flirty texts, but also kinda sweet and relieving like oh okay they do actually love each other. Nice to see a wholesome reply in here. When I was 11 or 12 I was at the sleepover birthday party of the girl who I considered my best friend. I had gotten a migraine that night and ended up throwing up but didn't want to go home so I stayed. We all laid down in the living room at the end of the night and I closed my eyes because I didn't feel good. All of the other girls stayed awake talking and I overheard them talking about how lame I was because I was asleep and that I was gross because I threw up. Typical tween girl nastiness. I think I told them I wasn't asleep but TBH I don't remember. A few months later this same girl told me that we weren't friends and she didn't like me because I was a loser. Middle school was fun. My ex talking shit about me to his best friend. About how he didn't even love me, he was just in it for the pussy and my parents had money so he was hoping to get a chunk of it. He had plans of knocking me up after I turned 21 and making me be a stay-at-home mom so I would be stuck at home while he could be out doing anything he wanted. I was in the bed of his mom's pop-up camper on vacation with him. It's all screens so I could hear their entire conversation. We took my car there. So he came to bed drunk and passed out. I packed up all my things and left him stranded. We were done after that. Was invited to a childhood friend's sleepover. I had a feeling that I wasn't supposed to be there because I got a sleeping bag while the other girls got air beds. Mom figured it was because I was the last one there. Couldn't sleep, so just pretended. Childhood friend's other friend. Why did you invite her anyway? Everyone knows you hate her. Childhood friend, our moms are friends. I didn't ask for her to be here. I pretended I had a stomach bug so mom could come and pick me up. Since that point I refused to go to a sleepover and haven't had a friend around to stay either since. I was 15. I was at my sister's house babysitting my nephew and was asleep on the couch when she and her husband got home at about 2 a.m. The phone rang. It woke me, but I lay there pretending to be asleep as I listened to her answer it. I heard her say, "What? Oh my God. Oh my God." She hung up and said to her husband, "That was my dad. Diablo got out of the pasture and went into the road. He got hit by a car and killed. How am I going to tell Mad Catz 323? I said, "I already know. That was 45 years ago. It still hurts." Had a cousin staying over at our place while he was meeting his long-distance GF. He was staying in my room and was chatting with her on his phone while he thought I was asleep. He obviously woke me up and started talking dirty with her, suggesting things they could do when they went to watch a crap movie at a non-busy time. I tried to make some noise, flash my phone screen on to give him the signal that I was actually awake, but it went on for a while before he noticed. I was at a friend's 18th birthday party. Half of the party was sleeping in his house when the party is over. I was sleeping in bed with a couple. They were just kissing, luckily. Sometimes he slapped her butt with his hand. So nothing happened, and I'm so glad for it. Other friends sleeping in the next room weren't so lucky cause another couple had full-blown sex. So a lot of bed shaking, silent moaning and clapping. Poor bastards. Lmao. My alarm. Just hoping my girlfriend will hit snooze so I don't have to move. I can relate. I had just told my mom and sister that I was feeling really down and such. We sat and watched TV. I was half asleep when the movie finished, but then they started talking about me. She just wants to think the weight of the world is on her back. She just wants to feel sad and come off as depressed as an excuse for not doing the shit I tell her to do, and so much more. Those words haunt me. Yeah, that is sadly pretty typical. When you tell somebody you feel down, they assume you want just attention or that you want to be edgy or something. Worst part is how so many people don't understand depression and think that you are just sad and give you all those awesome pieces of advice like keep yourself busy and distract yourself and stuff. And then they can actually think that you are just lazy and they start to be mad at you thinking you want to be sad on purpose or something. I was in prison serving a 3.5-year sentence. Anyway, on my first week and I was put into a cell with another guy around the same age as me. Later that night I fell asleep while watching TV with my new padmate. I woke up later on in the night and heard him on a mobile phone. These are kept secret to avoid another cellmate robbing it, or a screw from finding it. I have no idea who he was speaking to, but he was asking to check my convictions to make sure I wasn't a nonce. He told whoever he was on the phone to use the internet, and if I were a nonce he was going to stab me to death right there and then. Obviously I'm not a nonce, so I didn't get stabbed to death, but hearing his voice made me realize this guy is 100% serious, and I had no doubt he would do it if that was the case. Anyway, I ended up staying in that cell for around a month before I got to ship out to another prison. I actually met him again a year later when he was also shipped out to the same prison I was in. He seemed a nice guy, however there were stories of him catcalling someone not long after I left the cell. Probably when I was really sick from drinking when I was still a drinker, and hearing my mom come into the room and say please make it through the night as she was going to bed. Turned out after a visit to the hospital the next day that I was extremely dehydrated with alcohol poisoning and probably knocking on death's door. Unfortunately I can't say I've never relapsed since, but that was the day it really hit home that I had a serious problem and it was killing me. For anyone else in that place, I can't recommend AA enough. They've saved me from so many more potential relapses. There's a common misconception that you have to be religious. You don't. There are a lot of references in the material that talk about a higher power that sound religious, but it doesn't mean a literal deity. Your higher power can be anything, but it's often the Jungian concept of the self, but it can equally be a god if you are religious.